My son was crying when he called. "Mom, the landlord is evicting us. They've repossessed the car," he said. I answered calmly, "You should discuss this with your wife. She's the one who banned me from seeing my granddaughter, so I cut off the money." It lasted 1 week. 1 week later, they were at my door. But let me take you back to where this all started, to the moment when I realized that sometimes love means knowing when to stop giving. 3 months earlier, I was standing in my kitchen, preparing Sunday dinner for my son's family. It had become a ritual. Every Sunday, Michael, Cassie, and little Emma would come over. I'd cook Michael's favorite pot roast, the one my late husband Tom used to request every week. I'd set up Emma's play corner in the living room with toys I'd carefully selected. I'd bake Cassie's preferred lemon cake, even though I found it too tart for my taste. I did everything right, or so I thought. My phone buzzed with a text from Michael. "Running late. Cassie wants to stop by her mother's first. Be there around 3. 3 o'clock came and went, then 4, then 5. The pot roast dried out in the oven, the vegetables turned mushy, the lemon cake sat untouched on the counter. At 5:47 p.m., another text. "Sorry, Mom. Cassie's not feeling well. We're gonna skip today. Rain check?" It was the third Sunday in a row they'd canceled. But who's counting, right? I wrapped up the food, storing it in containers I'd later drop off at Michael's apartment, because that's what I did. I took care of them. I'd been taking care of Michael since Cassie came into the picture 5 years ago, and I'd been taking care of all of them since Emma was born 2 years ago. Let me be clear about something. I'm not one of those mothers-in-law who hates her son's wife on principle. When Michael first introduced me to Cassandra, I was thrilled. She was beautiful, confident, educated. She had a degree in marketing and big plans for her career. My son was in love, genuinely, deeply in love, and that was enough for me. The problems started small, so small that I didn't recognize them as problems at first. It began with little comments. "Michael, your mother still does your laundry? That's interesting." Said with a laugh, but the judgment was clear. I'd been doing Michael's laundry because he worked 60-hour weeks as a software developer and barely had time to sleep, let alone separate whites from colors. Then it was, "Linda, you really shouldn't have bought Emma that toy. We're trying to minimize plastic in our home." Never mind that I'd asked beforehand what Emma needed. Never mind that Cassie had said anything is fine. The comments evolved into rules. I could only visit on Sundays. I had to call before coming over, even on Sundays. I couldn't post photos of Emma on social media without Cassie's approval. Approval that never came. I couldn't take Emma overnight, not even for a few hours. But I accepted it all because I wanted to see my granddaughter. Because Emma had my late husband's eyes and Michael's smile, and holding her was like holding a piece of Tom again. What I didn't realize, what I was too blinded by love to see, was that while Cassie was building walls between Emma and me, she was building bridges between my bank account and their lifestyle. It started innocently enough. Michael called one evening, voice tight with stress. "Mom, I hate to ask, but the car broke down. The repair is $1,200, and we're a bit short this month. Could you maybe—" "Of course, sweetheart. I'll transfer it tomorrow." Then it was the security deposit for a bigger apartment. "We need more space for Emma, Mom. Just $3,000 to get us in. We'll pay you back." Then it was medical bills, daycare fees, credit card debt that had somehow gotten out of hand. Each time Michael called with that same apologetic tone, and each time I transferred the money without hesitation. Did they pay me back? What do you think? I didn't care about the money, not really. I'd worked hard my entire life, built a successful consulting business, invested wisely. Tom's life insurance had been generous. I could afford to help my son. What I couldn't afford, what I didn't realize I was losing, was my relationship with my granddaughter. The breaking point came on Emma's second birthday. I'd planned for weeks. I'd ordered a custom cake from the bakery Emma loved, vanilla with strawberry frosting, decorated with her favorite cartoon characters. I'd brought presents, books, a little kitchen set, art supplies for toddlers. I'd even arranged for a photographer, knowing how Cassie loved professional photos. The party was at 2 p.m. on a Saturday. I arrived at 1:45, wanting to help set up. Michael answered the door, and I could see the stress in his face immediately. "Mom, hi. Listen, about today." "Michael, everything okay?" I stepped inside, carrying the cake box and gift bags. That's when Cassie appeared from the kitchen, wearing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Linda, we weren't expecting you so early. I wanted to help set up. I brought the cake and actually, Linda, we need to talk." Cassie's voice was pleasant, but something underneath it made my skin crawl. "Could you come into the kitchen for a moment?" I glanced at Michael, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. That should have been my first warning. In the kitchen, Cassie turned to face me, arms crossed. "Linda, I'm going to be direct because I think that's the kindest approach. Michael and I have been discussing boundaries, and we feel that your involvement in our lives has become excessive."
Excessive? The word came out sharper than I intended. "You're always offering to help, always trying to see Emma, always," she paused, choosing her words carefully, "always inserting yourself into our family decisions. It's overwhelming." I looked at Michael, standing in the doorway like a deer caught in headlights. "Michael? Is this how you feel?" "Mom, He ran his hand through his hair, a gesture he'd done since childhood when he was uncomfortable. "I think Cassie has a point. Maybe we've been leaning on you too much. Maybe we need to be more independent." Independent. The word was almost funny, considering I'd transferred $2,500 into their account just last week to cover their rent. "I understand wanting independence," I said carefully, trying to keep my voice steady. "But I'm Emma's grandmother. I love her. I just want to be part of her life." "And you will be," Cassie said, quickly. Too quickly. "But on our terms. We need space, Linda. We need to establish our own family traditions without you constantly—" She trailed off, but the implication was clear. "Without me constantly interfering." "So what are you saying?" My hands were shaking. I set down the cake box before I dropped it. Cassie took a breath. "We're saying that we need to reduce your visits, maybe once a month instead of every week, and we'd prefer if you didn't just drop by unannounced or call every day. We need our space as a family unit." Once a month? To see my only granddaughter? The little girl who called me Gamma and ran to me with open arms every time I visited? Have you ever felt your heart break in real time? That's what was happening in that kitchen, in what was supposed to be a celebration of my granddaughter's birthday. "And today?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "The party? We think it's best if you don't stay," Cassie said. And there it was, the real message. "This is immediate family only. My parents are here, my sister's coming. We just think it would be less confusing for Emma if we kept the guest list small." Immediate family only. As if I wasn't Emma's grandmother. As if I hadn't been supporting them financially for years. As if I was some distant relative they were obligated to tolerate. I looked at Michael again, willing him to stand up for me, to say something. But he just stood there, his face a mask of discomfort and resignation. I see, I said finally, because what else could I say? I'll go then. The cake! Cassie gestured to the box. Keep it. It's for Emma. I walked past Michael without looking at him, grabbed my purse from the hall table, and left.
I sat in my car in their driveway for 5 minutes, crying so hard I couldn't see to drive. Through their front window, I could see Cassie's parents arriving, carrying presents and laughing. I could see Michael opening the door for them, that same smile he used to give me. I'd been replaced, not just reduced, replaced. I drove home in a fog, barely registering the turns. My house felt enormous and empty, the way it had in those first months after Tom died. I'd bought this place for our retirement, planning to fill it with grandchildren and Sunday dinners and family holidays. Now it was just a monument to my own foolishness. I spent that evening looking through photos of Emma as a newborn, tiny and perfect in my arms at the hospital. Emma taking her first steps in my backyard while I cheered. Emma at 18 months, covered in chocolate cake at my kitchen table, laughing with pure joy. When had I last seen her laugh like that? The next morning, I did something I should have done months ago. I opened my banking app and looked at my transaction history, really looked at it. In the past year alone, I'd transferred over $47,000 to Michael and Cassie. Rent payments, car payments, credit card bills, emergency expenses that happened with alarming regularity, medical bills that I later discovered weren't fully accurate. Their insurance had covered more than they'd told me. $47,000. And in return, I got to see my granddaughter once a month, if they deemed it appropriate. My friend Janet called that afternoon. How was Emma's party? I told her everything. The kitchen conversation, the dismissal, the realization about the money. Janet was silent for a long moment. Then, Linda, honey, I'm going to say something and you're not going to like it, but I'm saying it because I love you. Go ahead. They're using you. Cassie is using you for money and pushing you out of Emma's life, and Michael is letting her. And you're letting both of them by continuing to enable this behavior. Janet, when was the last time they said thank you? When was the last time Michael called just to chat, not to ask for money? When was the last time Cassie showed you an ounce of genuine appreciation or respect? I couldn't answer, because I couldn't remember.
You taught Michael to be independent, Janet continued. You raised a good man. But somewhere along the way, he forgot that independence means taking responsibility for your own life. And Cassie has figured out that she can have her cake and eat it too. Shut you out emotionally while keeping your wallet open. She's the mother of my grandchild. If I cut them off, then maybe they'll figure out how to stand on their own 2 feet. Or maybe they'll realize that treating you like an ATM with grandparent privileges has consequences. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Tom, about what he would say if he were here. Tom had been a firm believer in tough love. When Michael was 18 and wrecked his first car doing something stupid, Tom made him work all summer to pay for the repairs. He needs to understand that actions have consequences, Tom had said. What would Tom say now, watching our son treat me like this? At 3 a.m., I made a decision.
I opened my laptop and logged into my banking portal. I found the automatic transfers I'd set up, $2,000 monthly to Michael's account for living expenses, separate from the emergency transfers. I canceled them. Then I drafted an email to Michael. I deleted it. Drafted another. Deleted that too. Finally, at dawn, I sent a simple text. Michael, I love you and Emma more than anything, but I can't continue to financially support a family that doesn't want me to be part of their lives emotionally. The automatic transfers are canceled. You and Cassie are adults. You'll figure it out. When you're ready to have a real relationship with me, one based on love and respect, not money, I'll be here. Love, Mom. I sent it before I could second-guess myself. Then I turned off my phone and went to make coffee. The real test was about to begin. 3 days of silence followed my text. 3 days where I kept my phone on, checking it obsessively despite telling myself I wouldn't. 3 days where I jumped every time I heard a notification, only to find it was a spam email or a news alert. On the 4th day, Michael called. I stared at his name on my screen for 3 rings before answering. "Hello, Michael." He screamed into the phone. "Mom, my Emma, she's burning. We can't get the fever down. Can't get into the dock." "Michael, slow down. What's going on?" "Emma's sick." I felt my heart sink as I heard the fear in his voice. His pediatrician is out of town and the urgent care clinic is packed. We don't have a place to take her. Wait a second. You don't have a place to take her? What happened to the promise plan for once a month, maybe, if it was convenient for you? My grandchild was sick, and all I could think about was the betrayal, the condescension, the arrogance of my son and his new wife. "You knew I wouldn't cut you off, didn't you?" "Yes, I did." I wondered what his father would have done in such a situation. It was a hard part of being a parent. I took a deep breath, soothing myself with the "I'm your mother and I'm here for you" tone that I knew calmed him. "Okay, I'll be right there." Michael and Cassie's old words echoed in my head. "That we'll still need you, but you are our mother." They didn't mean that. Was there anything I could do to make them realize the importance of a family? Escaping this chaos of my thoughts, I stuck myself together and met his son in the darkness.
Mom, that's not... Cassie just wanted some boundaries. That's healthy. Therapists recommend boundaries. Did a therapist recommend taking $47,000 from me in 1 year while simultaneously pushing me out of your lives? Had he even known the total? Had he been keeping track? Or had he just gotten comfortable with Mom's money always being there? "That's not fair," he said finally. "You offered to help. We didn't force you." "You're right. I offered because I love you, because I wanted to support my son and his family. But Michael, love isn't supposed to be one-directional. Love isn't supposed to feel like I'm paying rent just to exist in my granddaughter's life. It's not like that." "Then what is it like? Explain it to me, because I'm trying to understand. Help me understand how it's okay to accept thousands of dollars from me while telling me I'm too involved in your life." I could hear Cassie's voice in the background, muffled but insistent. Michael covered the phone, and I could hear their muffled argument. When he came back on, his tone had shifted, harder, more defensive. "Look, Mom, if you want to be petty about money, that's your choice. But Emma is your granddaughter. You're really going to punish a 2-year-old because your feelings are hurt?" The manipulation was so smooth, I almost fell for it. Almost. "I'm not punishing anyone, Michael. I'm simply no longer funding a lifestyle for people who don't want me in their lives. You and Cassie are 32 and 30 years old. You have good jobs. You can budget. You can make choices. We have expenses you don't understand. Then explain them to me, right now. Itemize them. Tell me exactly why two working adults with a combined income of over $120,000 a year can't cover their own rent. Another silence. Longer this time. You know what, Mom? I didn't call to be interrogated. I called because I thought you'd want to know that Emma's been asking for you. She doesn't understand why Gamma doesn't come over anymore, but I guess that doesn't matter to you. The words hit exactly where he intended. Emma asking for me. My sweet grandbaby, confused about where I had gone. Of course it matters. Michael, I love Emma more than anything, but using her as emotional blackmail to keep your ATM open isn't love. It's manipulation. I can't believe you'd say that. After everything Dad taught us about family? Don't. The word came out sharp. Don't you dare use your father's memory to justify this. Tom would be ashamed of what's happening here, and you know it.
I heard him inhale sharply. I'd crossed a line, but it was true. Tom had worked 3 jobs to put Michael through college debt-free. He taught our son about responsibility, about earning what you have, about treating people with respect. What would he think of the man Michael had become? I have to go, Michael said coldly. When you're ready to act like a grandmother instead of a banker, let me know. He hung up. I sat there with the phone in my hand, shaking. Part of me wanted to call back, to apologize, to transfer the money and beg for another chance to see Emma. That instinct was so strong it was almost physical. But I didn't. I couldn't. Because Janet was right. I'd enabled this. Every time I'd handed over money without question, every time I'd accepted less and less access to Emma without pushing back, I taught them that this was acceptable, that I would always cave, that my love could be exploited. Not anymore. Janet came over that evening with wine and Chinese takeout. How are you holding up? I'm not, I admitted. Michael called. Used Emma to try to guilt me into continuing the payments. It almost worked. But it didn't. Janet squeezed my hand. You're stronger than you think, Linda. You're doing the right thing, even though it hurts. What if I'm wrong? What if I'm being selfish? What if Emma grows up thinking I abandoned her? Emma is 2. If Michael and Cassie wanted, they could tell her that Grandma loves her very much and will be there whenever she's allowed to be. But instead, they're using her as a weapon. Janet poured us both wine. That's on them, not you. Over the next week, my phone stayed painfully quiet. No calls, no texts, no photos of Emma that Cassie used to send when she wanted something. The silence was its own kind of torture. But I filled my days. I called old friends I'd been neglecting. I started volunteering at the library. I took a pottery class I'd been putting off for years. I reminded myself that I had a life outside of being Michael's financial support system. On day 9, Janet called with news. You're not gonna believe this. I ran into Cassie's sister at the grocery store. She mentioned that Michael and Cassie are going through a rough patch financially. Apparently, they've been living way beyond their means. Designer clothes, expensive restaurants, a lease on a BMW that costs more than my mortgage. A BMW. Michael had told me they needed help with car repairs on their old Honda. The car they'd been driving was a lease on a $70,000 vehicle. There's more, Janet continued. The sister let slip that Cassie's been pushing Michael to ask you for a down payment on a house. Apparently, she's embarrassed that they're still renting and wanted to buy in that new development across town. You know, the one where houses start at $600,000? I felt sick. How much more would they have asked for? How much deeper would this hole have gotten before I finally hit bottom? Linda, you still there?
I'm here. I'm just processing. You did the right thing. You know that, right? Did I? Every day without Emma felt wrong. Every morning I woke up and remembered I wouldn't hear her little voice, wouldn't see her gap-toothed smile. How was that right? But then I'd remember the kitchen conversation, Cassie's cold dismissal, Michael's inability to stand up for me, the financial manipulation that had been so smooth I hadn't recognized it as manipulation. Maybe right and easy weren't the same thing. Day 12 brought a text from Michael. The landlord has given us a 30-day notice. We're 3 months behind on rent. We need $7,500 by Friday or we're evicted. Please, Mom, for Emma's sake. 3 months behind? Which meant they'd been lying to me about emergency rent help for months. I'd been paying their rent, or so I thought, while they spent the money on other things. I didn't respond. 2 hours later, Mom, please, Cassie's mother can't help. We have nowhere to go. You can't let your granddaughter be homeless because you're mad at us. Still, I didn't respond. 4 hours later, fine, I guess I know where I stand. Don't expect to see Emma again. Cassie was right about you. That one hurt. It was designed to hurt, but I held firm. Day 14 was when things got really interesting. Michael called at 11 p.m. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mom? His voice was panicked now, not angry. Mom, they repossessed the car. Cassie can't get to work. I'm trying to Uber, but it's costing $60 a day. We can't. Mom, please, I'm begging you, just this one more time. I'll pay you back. I swear I'll pay you back. Have you ever heard your child beg and had to steel yourself against it? Every instinct I had was screaming at me to help him, to fix this, to make the problem go away like I'd been doing for years. Michael, I said calmly, though my heart was racing, do you remember what Dad used to say about consequences? Mom, this isn't the time. Actions have consequences. You and Cassie made choices. You leased an expensive car you couldn't afford. You rented an apartment above your means. You spent money on luxuries while telling me you needed help with necessities. Those were your choices. These are the consequences.
So you're just going to let us fail? Let Emma suffer? I'm going to let you figure it out, like adults, like parents. You have jobs, Michael. Between you and Cassie, you make good money. You can find a cheaper apartment. You can buy a used car. You can create a budget and stick to it. You can do what millions of people do every day, live within your means. We can't. You can. You just haven't had to, because I've always been there to bail you out. But Michael, I'm done. Not because I don't love you, because I love you too much to keep enabling you to destroy yourselves. This is about Cassie, isn't it? You never liked her. You've been waiting for a chance to. This is about you, I interrupted. This is about my son, who I raised to be responsible and kind, allowing his wife to use his mother as a bank while treating her like an inconvenience. This is about you standing in that kitchen and letting Cassie kick me out of my granddaughter's birthday party. This is about you calling me only when you need money. Silence. For the first time in this conversation, he had nothing to say. When was the last time you called just to talk, Michael? When was the last time you asked how I was doing? When was the last time you thanked me? Really thanked me for helping you? I say thank you. Do you? Or do you say, thanks, Mom, in the same breath as, we need another $3,000 for insert excuse here? More silence. In the background, I could hear Emma crying. My heart clenched, but I held firm. You should go. Emma needs you. And Michael, you can do this. You're capable and smart and stronger than you think. You just have to try. I hung up before he could respond, before I could crack.
I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about Emma, about whether she was scared, about whether she understood why her world was falling apart. But I also kept thinking about the long game. If I gave in now, this cycle would continue. Michael and Cassie would learn that if they pushed hard enough, if they used Emma as leverage enough, I would break. And Emma would grow up watching that dynamic. She'd learn that love means letting people manipulate you, that being family means accepting mistreatment as long as someone says they need you. Was that the lesson I wanted to teach my granddaughter? Day 15. A text from Cassie, the first direct communication I'd had from her since the birthday party. I hope you're proud of yourself. We're losing everything. Your son is having panic attacks. Emma keeps asking for you, and we have to tell her Grandma doesn't want to see her anymore. But I guess your pride is more important than your own flesh and blood.
The message was designed to destroy me, and it almost did. But I read it again, and this time I saw something else. Not in the words, but in what was missing. No apology, no acknowledgement of how they treated me, no recognition that maybe, just maybe, they'd played any role in this situation. Just blame, just guilt, just more manipulation. I blocked her number. That night, Janet insisted I come to her book club. You need to be around people. You need to remember you have a life. She was right. At book club, surrounded by women who'd known me for years, who knew my story, I remembered who I was before I became Michael's ATM. I was Linda Morrison. I'd built a business from nothing. I'd raised a son after my husband died. I'd survived and thrived. I could survive this too. Day 16, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Mrs. Morrison, this is Brandon Shin. I'm the property manager for Riverside Apartments where your son lives. My stomach dropped. Yes? I'm calling as a courtesy. Your son listed you as an emergency contact. I wanted you to know that we've begun eviction proceedings. They have until Friday to vacate the premises. I thought you might want to know in case you wanted to help them with moving arrangements. I appreciate the call, Mr. Chin, but my son is an adult. He'll need to handle this himself. A pause. I understand. I'm sorry to deliver bad news. After he hung up, I sat there, staring at my phone. This was it. The point of no return. In 4 days, Michael and Cassie would be evicted. They'd have to move somewhere cheaper, probably dramatically cheaper. They'd have to downsize their lives, accept reality, face consequences. And I was going to let it happen. Was I a terrible mother, a cruel grandmother, or was I finally doing what Tom would have done, teaching my son that you can't spend your way through life on someone else's dime? I guess I was about to find out. Friday came, day 20. 3 weeks since I sent that text. 3 weeks since I cut off the money. 3 weeks of silence and guilt and second-guessing. I was in my kitchen trying to distract myself with baking when my doorbell rang. For a moment, I considered not answering, but curiosity won. I opened the door, and there they were, Michael, Cassie, and Emma, standing on my porch with suitcases. Michael's eyes were red. Cassie's face was blotchy from crying. Emma was holding her favorite stuffed bunny, looking confused and tired. "Mom," Michael's voice broke. "We have nowhere else to go." I stood in the doorway, looking at the 3 people on my porch. My son, whose eyes held a mixture of desperation and shame. My daughter-in-law, whose usual confidence had crumbled into something raw and broken. And Emma, who saw me and immediately reached out her little arms. "Gamma!" Every fiber of my being wanted to scoop Emma up, to pull all of them inside, to fix everything immediately.
That's what mothers do, right? We fix things. We make the pain go away. We sacrifice ourselves so our children don't have to suffer. But I'd been doing that for years, and look where it had gotten us. "Come in," I said finally, stepping aside. "But we need to talk. Really talk." They filed in, and the contrast was striking. The last time they'd been in my house, they'd walked in like they owned the place. Confident, casual, entitled. Now they moved like refugees, unsure of their welcome, carrying their belongings in garbage bags and worn suitcases. Emma ran to me the moment I closed the door, wrapping her little arms around my legs. "Gamma, I missed you." I bent down, pulling her into a hug that I'd been craving for 3 weeks. She smelled like baby shampoo and something indefinably Emma. "I missed you too, sweetheart. So much." When I looked up, Cassie was crying silently, and Michael couldn't meet my eyes. "Emma," I said gently, "why don't you go to the playroom? All your toys are still there, exactly where you left them." She ran off happily, blissfully unaware of the tension in the room. The moment she was out of earshot, I turned to Michael and Cassie. "Sit down." They sat on the couch, like chastened children. The same couch where, months ago, Cassie had complained it was too traditional for her taste. The same couch where Michael had casually mentioned needing just a few thousand to cover some unexpected expenses. I remained standing. Some conversations require you to hold the high ground. "So," I said, my voice calm but firm, "you're here because you have nowhere else to go. Is that correct?" Michael nodded miserably. "Mom, I'm so sorry. We messed up. We messed up bad."
Tell me exactly what happened over the last 3 weeks, and I want the truth, all of it. They looked at each other, some silent communication passing between them. Finally, Michael spoke. "We got evicted on Wednesday. We'd been 3 months behind on rent, and you were right. We'd been lying about needing money for rent. We were spending it on other things." His voice cracked. "The BMW got repossessed on day 12, like I told you. Cassie's boss gave her a warning because she was late so many times trying to get to work. We tried to get a loan, but our credit it's destroyed. Mom, we maxed out 4 credit cards, and we've been making minimum payments. I didn't even realize how bad it was until everything fell apart at once." "How much debt are you in, total?" Cassie whispered something I couldn't hear. "What was that?" $87,000, she said louder, her voice hollow. "Not counting student loans, credit cards, the car lease we broke, personal loans, store credit. We owe $87,000. I felt the number hit me like a physical blow. $87,000. On top of the $47,000 I'd already given them. "How?" I asked. "How did you accumulate that much debt?" "We thought we deserved it," Cassie said, and for the first time she looked directly at me. "Linda, I grew up poor, really poor. I wore thrift store clothes and ate free lunch at school. When I got my marketing job, when I married Michael, I thought I'd finally made it. I thought I deserved nice things, designer bags, expensive dinners, a car that made me feel successful." Her voice broke. "I thought if I looked successful, I'd feel successful. Instead, I just buried us."
Have you ever watched someone realize they've been living a lie? It's both painful and necessary to witness. And you, I turned to Michael, you let this happen. You knew I was transferring money to help with necessities, and you let her spend it on luxuries. You stood in that kitchen and let her kick me out of Emma's birthday party. You called me only when you needed money? When did you stop being my son and become her accomplice? The words were harsh, but they needed to be said. Michael flinched like I'd slapped him. I don't know, he whispered. I don't know when it happened. Cassie was so confident, so sure about what we needed, what we deserved, and I was working all the time, barely keeping up. It was easier to just go along with it, to call you when we needed money because I knew you'd help. I didn't see what we were doing to you. I didn't see what we were becoming. Did you love me? I asked quietly. During all of this, did you love me? Or was I just a convenient solution to your financial problems? Mom, of course I love you.
Then why did it take losing everything for you to remember that? Why did it take eviction and repossession and standing on my doorstep with suitcases for you to actually see me as your mother instead of your ATM? The silence that followed was answer enough. I walked to the window, looking out at the garden Tom and I had planted 20 years ago. He'd been so proud of this house, of what we'd built together. What would he think of this moment? Here's what's going to happen, I said, turning back to them. You can stay here, temporarily, but there are conditions, non-negotiable conditions. They both nodded eagerly, desperately. First, you will get financial counseling. There's a debt management program through the community center. You will enroll and you will attend every session. You will create a budget and you will stick to it. Yes, absolutely, Michael said. Second, you will both keep your jobs. No matter how hard it is to get there, no matter how inconvenient. You'll take the bus, you'll carpool, you'll bike if you have to. But you will work, and you will start paying down this debt yourselves. We will, Cassie said. Third, you will contribute to this household. That means cooking, cleaning, yard work, whatever needs doing. You're not guests here. You're adults who made poor choices and need to rebuild. That starts with taking responsibility. They nodded again. Fourth, and here I paused, making sure they were really hearing me, you will rebuild your relationship with me, not because you need something from me, not because I'm your backup plan, but because I'm Emma's grandmother and I deserve to be treated with love and respect. That means regular family dinners where we actually talk. That means not shutting me out of Emma's life. That means treating me like family instead of a bank. Mom, I'm so sorry, Michael started, but I held up my hand. I'm not finished. Fifth and finally, you get 6 months. 6 months to find stable jobs, to save money, to find an affordable place to live. 6 months to prove you can function as adults. After 6 months, you move out. Not because I don't love you, but because you need to stand on your own 2 feet. Even if that means a small apartment in a less desirable neighborhood, even if that means giving up the lifestyle you thought you deserved. I looked at both of them, these 2 people who'd caused me so much pain, but who were also the parents of my beloved granddaughter.
Can you do that? Can you actually follow through? Or are you just going to agree now and then go back to your old patterns the moment things get easier? Michael stood up, and for the first time in years, I saw my son. Not the man-child who called begging for money, not the husband who let his wife dictate terms, but the boy Tom and I had raised to be strong and responsible. "We can do it," he said. "We will do it. Mom, I know I don't deserve another chance. I know I've been a terrible son. But I swear to you, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to be the man Dad raised me to be." Cassie stood too. "Linda, I owe you an apology that goes way beyond today. I treated you horribly. I was so insecure about coming from nothing that I overcompensated by trying to control everything, including your relationship with Emma. I convinced myself that you were trying to take over, when really you just wanted to love your granddaughter." She wiped her eyes. "I don't expect you to forgive me, but I promise you I'm gonna change. I'm going to deal with my issues, and I'm gonna make sure Emma knows how lucky she is to have you." Were they sincere? Or were they just saying what I wanted to hear because they were desperate? Time would tell. But for now, I chose to believe them, because the alternative was watching my son and granddaughter end up on the street, and I couldn't live with that. "Okay," I said. "Go get your things from the car. You can take the guest room and Michael's old room. We'll set up Emma's space this weekend." As they went to outside to unload, I stood in my living room processing what had just happened. I'd let them back in, but on my terms, with boundaries, with consequences. Was this enabling? Or was this what family actually meant? Holding people accountable while still offering support? Cassie came running back from the playroom, her arms full of toys. "Gamma, look! My dollies are still here." I knelt down to her level. "Of course they are, sweetheart. They were waiting for you. Are we staying with you?" "Yes, for a while." "Good. I like it here. You make the best pancakes." I laughed despite everything. Children have a way of cutting through complexity to what really matters. Over the next few days, we established a new rhythm. Michael and Cassie both went to work, taking the bus, leaving early to make up for the longer commute. They came home exhausted, but determined. They enrolled in the debt management program and came back from their first session looking shell-shocked at the reality of their situation. They said it'll take us 5 years. 5 years of strict budgeting to pay off everything. No eating out, no vacations, no unnecessary purchases. "Can you do it?" I asked. He looked at Cassie, then back at me. "We have to. We don't have a choice anymore." But the real change was in the small moments. Michael asking me about my day and actually listening to the answer. Cassie cooking dinner and inviting me to join them instead of treating me like an intruder in my own home. The three of us playing with Emma in the backyard, her laughter filling the space that had been so empty for so long. 2 weeks into their stay, Cassie approached me while I was reading in the living room. "Linda, can we talk?" I set down my book. "Of course." She sat across from me, her hands twisted in her lap. "I've been seeing a therapist. The debt counselor recommended it. She thinks I have some issues around money and self-worth that contributed to everything." "That's good, Cassie. That takes courage." She asked me to make amends, real amends, not just apologizing. "So I wanted you to know, I called my mother. I told her what I did to you, how I treated you. I told her about the money, about Emma's birthday party. All of it." I waited, sensing there was more. My mom was horrified. She said if she'd known, she would have intervened. She said she raised me better than that. Cassie's eyes filled with tears. She also said she understood where it came from, that I spent so much of my childhood feeling less than, feeling poor,
feeling embarrassed, that I overcorrected as an adult. But understanding it doesn't excuse it. No, it doesn't, I agreed gently. But understanding it is the first step to changing it. I want Emma to have what I didn't have growing up, but not material things. I see now that those don't matter. I want her to have security, love, family. She looked directly at me. I want her to have you, Linda, without restrictions, without me being jealous or controlling. You're her grandmother, and she needs you. It was the most honest conversation Cassie and I had ever had. Maybe the most honest conversation we could have, because it came from a place of genuine humility rather than polite pretense. Thank you for telling me that. And Cassie, you're a good mother. You made mistakes, but you're trying to fix them. That's what matters. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I won't let you down again. I promise. 1 month in, Michael got a promotion at work. Not a huge one, but enough to mean an extra $300 a month. He came home excited, talking about how it would help with the debt payments. That night at dinner, he told Emma about the concept of saving money, of working toward goals, of being responsible. Watching him teach his daughter the lessons he'd forgotten himself felt like watching a circle complete. 2 months in, they'd saved enough for a used Honda. Nothing fancy, just reliable transportation. The look on Michael's face when he drove it home wasn't pride in a status symbol. It was pride in something he'd earned himself. 3 months in, Cassie showed me their budget spreadsheet. Every dollar accounted for, every debt listed with payment schedules, every expense tracked. We've paid off one of the credit cards, she said, her voice filled with genuine accomplishment. It was only $3,000, but we did it without your help. Just us working and saving and sacrificing. I'm proud of you, I said, and I meant it. 4 months in, we celebrated Emma's half-birthday with a simple party in the backyard. Just us, Janet, and a few of Emma's friends from daycare. No expensive venues, no elaborate catering, just homemade cake, cheap decorations from the dollar store, and a lot of love. Emma was happier than I'd seen her at her elaborate second birthday party. Sometimes less really is more. 5 months in, Michael and Cassie announced they'd found an apartment. A small 2-bedroom in a working-class neighborhood. Nothing like the place they'd been evicted from, but it was clean, affordable, and theirs. We can actually make rent every month, Michael said, showing me the lease, with money left over for savings and debt payments. It's not much, but Mom, we did this. We found it ourselves, qualified for it ourselves, signed the lease ourselves. When do you move? I asked, and I was surprised to find I'd missed them. Not the old them, the entitled versions who'd used me, but these people, the ones who were rebuilding themselves, piece by piece. End of the month. We wanted to stick to the 6-month timeline you said. He paused. Mom, I know these last months have been what you required of us, but they've also been the best months of my marriage. Cassie and I are actually communicating. We're working as a team. We're being honest with each other and with ourselves. You didn't just give us a place to stay. You gave us a chance to remember who we're supposed to be. When moving day came, I helped them pack. It didn't take long. They'd accumulated so little during their time with me, focusing on saving rather than acquiring. Emma was excited about her new big girl room, chattering about where her toys would go. She didn't understand that this move represented her parents' journey from rock bottom back to standing on their own 2 feet. But someday she would.
And someday, I'd tell her this story. I'd tell her about the time her parents lost their way, and how sometimes loving someone means letting them face the consequences of their choices. I'd tell her about boundaries and respect and the difference between helping and enabling. As I watched them drive away in their used Honda, heading to their modest apartment, I felt something unexpected. Peace. Not because I'd punished them, not because I'd gotten revenge, but because I'd done what Tom would have wanted. I'd taught our son that actions have consequences, that love doesn't mean accepting mistreatment, and that real family is built on respect, not obligation. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael. "Thanks for everything, Mom. Not just the place to stay, but for loving me enough to let me fail, and then loving me enough to help me get back up. I promise you'll never regret this. Love you." I texted back. "Love you too. See you Sunday for dinner?" Wouldn't miss it. "And Mom, I'm paying this time. No arguments." I smiled. It was probably going to be pizza or something equally cheap given their budget, but it would be the first meal my son had paid for in years, and that meant everything. Janet called that evening. "So, how are you feeling?" "Honestly, good. Really good. They're going to be okay back. It's going to take time, but they're going to make it. And you? Are you okay?" I thought about the question. Was I okay? I'd spent 3 months watching my son and his family struggle. I'd held firm when every instinct told me to rescue them. I'd enforced boundaries when it would have been easier to cave. I'd chosen tough love over easy peace. "I'm better than okay," I said finally. "I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of them. And I get to be Emma's grandmother again, for real this time. Not a stranger who visits once a month, but an actual part of her life. You did good, Linda. Tom would be proud." After we hung up, I walked through my quiet house. It felt different now. Not empty, but peaceful. I'd reclaimed my space, my boundaries, my sense of self. I'd learned that loving someone doesn't mean letting them destroy themselves, or you. Would Michael and Cassie completely change? Would they never slip up again? Probably not. Change is messy and nonlinear. But they were trying, genuinely trying, and that was enough. The next Sunday, they came for dinner. Michael had picked up pizza like he'd promised, and Cassie brought a salad she'd made. Emma ran to me the moment they arrived, and we spent the evening playing games and talking and laughing. Normal family things. The things I'd been missing for so long. As they were leaving, Cassie hugged me. "Thank you," she whispered, "for not giving up on us, even when we gave you every reason to." That's what family does. Real family. After they left, I sat on my porch, watching the sunset. Somewhere in the distance, I could hear children playing, dogs barking, life continuing in its messy, complicated way. I thought about all the people out there facing similar situations. Adult children who'd forgotten how to be independent. Parents who had enabled bad behavior out of love. Families torn apart by money and resentment and unspoken expectations. What would I tell them if I could? I'd tell them that love without boundaries isn't really love. It's imprisonment for both parties. I'd tell them that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let someone face the consequences of their choices. I'd tell them that it's okay to say no, even to people you love, especially to people you love. I'd tell them that you can't save someone who won't save themselves, but you can be there when they're ready to try. And most importantly, I'd tell them that you're not a bad parent or a bad person for protecting yourself, that you deserve respect and love,
not just obligation and guilt. The doorbell rang, interrupting my thoughts. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, Emma was standing there with Michael, holding a picture she'd drawn. "We forgot to give you this, Gamma," she said, handing me a crayon drawing of stick figures. "It's our family. See? That's you, and that's me, and that's Mommy and Daddy. We're all holding hands." In the drawing, everyone was smiling. Everyone was connected. Everyone had a place. "It's beautiful, sweetheart," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "I wanted you to have it so you remember we love you," Emma said seriously, "even when we're not here." I pulled her into a hug, looking at Michael over her head. He was smiling, but his eyes were wet. "I'll treasure it forever," I told her, and I meant it. After they left for the second time, I put the drawing on my refrigerator, right where I could see it every day. A reminder that sometimes the hardest journeys lead to the most meaningful destinations. That family isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, even after you failed, especially after you failed. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from Cassie. Emma insisted we come back with that drawing. She said Gamma needed to know we love her. "We do, Linda. Thank you for teaching us what that really means." I looked at the drawing again, at those stick figures holding hands, and smiled. We weren't perfect. We probably never would be. But we were family. Real, messy, complicated, trying our best family. And that was enough.